Okay, so today we have a special guest. His name is Albert from Stakehound, and we're gonna go and kind of do a quick run through of what Stakehound is, what can we do with it, and we're gonna answer some questions from the community. So I guess Albert, all you want to introduce yourself and what Stakehound is and what Zcoin or Stakedfiro is. Yeah.
Thanks, Reuben. Yeah, I mean, to introduce myself, my name is Albert Castellana. I started in crypto 2013. I started kind of investing in Bitcoin, then jumped into Ethereum, started like a consulting company, just trying to sell that technology to kind of insurance companies and like governments and so on. Eventually realized that Solidity was a very difficult kind of language to be selling to other companies, and I decided to join a small kind of blockchain called NEM. I was one of the founding members of the NEM Foundation, and so I grow like to like top four or something like this in CoinMarketCap. A lot of learnings on the way, but eventually realized as well that there was things that are necessary that we were not kind of looking into yet, right? One thing was scalability, so I joined Radix as the chief product officer, and then eventually, while researching stuff around DeFi, we started looking into decentralized exchanges. Then we started looking into everything related to stable coins, and then eventually jumped into, okay, actually, what is this thing that is called DeFi? Because back then there was nothing such a thing. And then we started looking into why is this good and why is this exciting for the ecosystem, right? So when looking into that, we saw actually like what drives attention, or what drives kind of developers to a platform, to a layer one protocol, is by having enough wealth on that platform that you have developers that can come in and tap that wealth. So essentially, when you're building a layer one protocol, what you're doing is you're creating a customer base for your developers, right? Now, that's something that we started looking into. We started researching on what do people want from DeFi, why are people excited about this thing, and like through multiple iterations, we discovered that there was this thing that was kind of looking at our faces, which is the competition between staking and DeFi. Like users have to choose whether they want to be locking up their assets on staking or participating in DeFi, and that's kind of where we base the whole business from.
Right. And I guess like one of the things is that you've also seen a shift from money that's being locked into staking protocols and versus the DeFi protocols. And as you said, that's kind of a waste, right? So it's bad for the layer ones, as more of
Yes.
this stuff becomes unlocked. Do you have some figures? I remember you had some figures off the
Yes.
top of your head. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I mean, I remember when I actually like put up the first deck for Stakehound, and the number of locked value in staking then was $25 billion. That's essentially July, August, right? And over the following 2 months, it went down from $25 billion down to about $13-14 billion. So about $10 billion that left staking and have now appeared on DeFi, right? So DeFi has actually gone from $3 billion to $13 billion in a few months as well, right? So
Oh.
it just makes sense, right? So it's like 50-50, right? There was $25 billion really active in, on kind of getting yield on crypto, right? Very active in crypto getting yield. And they kind of split, and now you have 50-50 DeFi and staking, right? Which is very interesting. Then what we're trying to do essentially is just say, okay, what if we could create something that allows people to earn from both at the same time, right? Because staking is very important. Without staking, you don't have security on the networks. Without staking, the communities can completely shift. Like the reason why a lot of people are right now, for example, on Zcoin is because they know that they have a base. They have something that constantly gives them rewards just by supporting the network. They know how they can run the nodes. Like that's very important to make sure that the nodes are more healthy as well. Like the network is more healthy as well. All of those things we're just trying to foster, while at the same time allowing people to kind of make more of it by participating in DeFi, right?
Yeah. So maybe I mean, for the benefit of those who may not be aware, like what are the stuff that you can do on DeFi? Because a lot of the like a lot of the stuff we're seeing in the news. People get hacked, they lose their money. A lot of Ponzi games or food
Right.
stuff. And there's been that negative association. And obviously, some people are asking like, hey, why are you guys going to the DeFi space? Are you just chasing hype? Of course, I have my views and have expressed them, but it'll be good to hear from you, who has been really active in the DeFi space, and particularly what are the innovations that you think that why DeFi is important for, let's say, a layer one beyond just earning yield, right? Yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, absolutely. As I was saying before, like the thing about DeFi is that it has found product market fit for the target customer, which is the holders and the traders, right? There's a lot of things that you can do on DeFi, and some of them are things that you couldn't do before in no way, just because of pure like technical issues, because of business issues, and because of compliance as well, right? Now, there's a lot of possibilities that until now were not possible and now become available to literally everybody, right? I'll give you an example. So there's this thing which for me kind of it's one of the main things that we need to like one of the key pillars if you want to create a successful token. As you well know, you need to have liquidity for a token to be, tradable. Actually, right? If you have a token that nobody is like willing to sell, for example, it's not going to work, right? If nobody is going to buy it, no, it's not going to work, right? What we're doing, for example, with taking as an example the automated market makers, right? This thing called constant function market makers. What's happening is that you can create a market just by having a pool of tokens, right? DeFi is everything about pools. You can create a pool where people can come in and trade against that pool. You can create a pool where people can come in and borrow against that pool. You can create a pool that allows you to create synthetic assets of other things, right? Now, what I'm seeing is that a lot of these different things that we didn't understand just a few months ago, right? For example, the automated market makers are complete shifts on how finance is going to work. If we look into the automated market makers, what it's actually doing is democratizing being an exchange, right? And I'm saying being an exchange is like, I'm sure everyone can imagine the type of money that something like Binance or something like Coinbase is making right now. A lot of money, right? Now, what would happen if anybody could put their liquidity and earn those fees by the volume that is happening on those exchanges, and there was no exchange, like there was no fee for all the infrastructure that is being run and maintained there, right? What we're saying is that right now Uniswap is the second largest exchange in terms of daily volume, more than Coinbase. This is absolutely ridiculous, right? What you're saying here is that this exchange that doesn't have, I mean, it has some stuff, obviously, right? But has a minuscule team in comparison to with Coinbase, because they don't need to care so much about regulation, because they don't need to do the onboarding, the customer support. They're a lot of their systems are very, very easily maintained just by programming a smart contract, putting it on the ledger, and from then on, anybody can use it. And what it actually boils down to is that because of the automated market makers, anybody can come in, put their liquidity, put their capital to work, and earn fees just from the trading volume, the same as if they were investing on Binance or Coinbase. But instead of doing it on the whole company, they're doing on a specific pool. Right. So
Right.
if I am right now providing liquidity to, say, Stakedfiro versus ETH, every single trade that's happening there is giving me fees because I'm providing liquidity, right? On top of this, because of the system, how Stakehound works, it's that the Stakedfiro side of things is actually gaining more yield, right? Because the rewards of the staking are being distributed to the people that are providing liquidity as well as the people that are not providing liquidity, but the trading fees are there, right? Now, if you just go to CoinMarketCap, you look at Zcoin's volume, for example, daily volume, and you think, okay, what would happen if people actually, instead of going and pay and kind of trade paper Zcoin on an exchange like Binance, they went to do it on Uniswap. What would happen if I am the one that is providing liquidity, and at the same time I'm like getting the yield from the staking side of things, right?
Yeah, so I
And
mean, like,
yeah,
what I mean, I've also like been playing around the DeFi space, and yes, Uniswap has like higher fees, if I'm not mistaken, like 0.3%.
yeah,
Yeah, but a lot of the times it's also the speed of being able to do those trades, because with Binance or any sort of centralized exchange, you have to lose custody of the funds, and then after that, you placed it. You have the deposit, wait for it to confirm, then place your orders, wait for them to take. While with something like Uniswap, the custody of the coins are always, with you until at the point of
Mhm.
the trade,
Mhm.
and it gets completed within a couple of seconds, and the trade just executes regardless of whether there's people orders or not, because as you said, it's just a liquidity pool. And I think especially when there's increased regulatory pressure on privacy coins, and it's not as if that we're illegal, but there's a lot of pressure on exchanges to delist privacy coins. And when this when these exchanges are not willing to kind of stand up for you, or like to defend, having alternative options like like the most popular dexes does add like further redundancy to the liquidity of FIRO. And
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that I really like about the Stakehound process is that like as you said, like previously, if you hosted a Z node or a master node, you couldn't do anything with it. You could not. It's just locked there, sitting there passively. But now, because of the now you can fractionalize that master node, and you can trade portions of it, even if you don't have 1,000 Zcoin or 1,000 FIRO. That's not enough, and you can trade it and continue to earn. So I guess let's quickly go into the process of converting FIRO into stake FIRO. And
Mhm.
maybe I'll just give a quick run through, and then we can start going into the questions. But the way it works is basically people who have FIRO or Zcoin, they will go to your website, click on the button to sign up, and they will have to go through a KYC and anti-money laundering process that is run by Economy, which is
Mhm. That's correct.
a provider in Switzerland, right?
Yeah, it's a
And
financial intermediary in Switzerland. There.
right. And if it's like a small amount, you just have to provide some details, and there's no need for a video interview.
Mhm.
But if it's
Mhm.
a much larger amount, then there's of course different levels of approval. And this process, like I guess if for like the smaller amounts, is only to get that approval, maybe only 1 or 2 days, or less, maybe.
Yeah, like the so a couple of things that I would like to say on this, right? Like first is we leave. I mean, I understand the keenness of people in crypto to kind of be outside of the system and like, but at the same time we live in the real system, right? In the real
Right.
world, and the problem here is that regulation will not be forgiving things.
Hmm.
So things that, for example, now look decentralized but can be pinned down to a specific developer,
Right.
can be pinned down to a specific multi-sig, all those different things eventually will be kind of taken out,
Yes.
right?
Right.
So we have taken the approach of doing it. Okay, let's do it so that institutions can come in and can use this.
Hmm.
Now, for institutions to come in and come use this, you need a clean ecosystem, and for that you need to be one regulated in a serious jurisdiction, such as Switzerland, for example, and then you need to be obviously compliant with the rules over there, which in this case are KYC and AML processes that are very very strict. Now, this will be very strict everywhere. It's just a matter of time, right? Like you can look at Europe, for example, is taking a lot of steps toward making all these KYC and AML regulations much more strict, right? But in terms of the process, right now, yes, it boils down to going through this KYC AML with Economy. And then what we're doing now is we're trying to reduce all the frictions there. So, for example, there are ways that we can find, for example, like having an exchange that allows you to trade it with their kind of KYC and AML, and our customer at that point would be the exchange, right? So there's different ways that we can do to simplify this process. And as you were, we're working on this, and as you were saying as well, the type of scrutiny depends on the size that's being like kind of like traded, right? If it's less than 15,000 Swiss francs, for example, obviously the process is way, way, way softer than if it's more than that, right? So
Mm.
there's like different tiers, and the smaller tiers essentially less than 15,000 Swiss francs, and then like the process is just, yes, it's a manual process. They will ask you for some questions, but it really, really is painless, right?
Yeah, so this is a great way, I guess, for like smaller holders who may not have 1,000 Zcoin, or maybe like 1,000 and plus plus. and that can go. Of course, larger whales they get additional benefits, which I guess
Mhm.
we can talk in a different interview. But I guess the ideal process, you get approved, then you deposit it into Copper, which is basically the institutional grade
Hosted
provider,
provider.
yeah, who
Yep.
will hold a native FIRO in their systems, and then
Yes.
they will inform Stakehound, and Stakehound will then generate the stake
The Stakedfiro.
FIRO that
Yeah.
will be issued on the F network. And I guess the clarity is that you only need to do the KYC when you're converting from native Firo into stake Firo, or from stake Firo to native Firo if you're going
Mhm.
through Stakehound. But then you can always buy on Uniswap. You can trade it and whatnot, and all that does not require any sort of AML or KYC. I think that means once you're in the system, or you can just buy it from the system, you can interact directly. You don't have to have any sort of AML KYC there. So maybe let's
So,
yeah, go on. Sorry.
yeah, I'm just thinking like a good way to think about this is WBTC, for
Yeah.
example, right? So WBTC works in the same fashion, and you have to do KYC and AML to mint WBTC, right?
Hmm.
It is essentially the same. Now, the difference here is that they are completely and only focused at institutions that want to do this, right? And the reality is that for most of the users, you can go to Binance and you can buy WBTC with BTC. You can go to a lot of different exchanges and trade WBTC for BTC, right? Of course, BTC's infrastructure is it's big, right? So what we're going to be working on, as I said before, is like trying to find other routes so that for most of the people, they don't have to go through this kind of hurdle, right? Like hassle, right? So yeah, it just we have made sure. I mean, DeFi is a very fast moving space, right? Where it's very important for us to make sure that all the assets are secured and we're staking in a secure way as well, with as many nodes and like as well managed as possible. We're very happy with how all nodes is doing, like the node managing, for example, and how we're working together. We set up 250 Z nodes in a matter of few days, actually, like about 10 minutes every one
Mm-hmm.
of them. Like very, like all of this has been completely automated. We maximize the yield so that the users have to not worry about this. And then most of the users, as you said, like they will just go into Uniswap, buy some tokens, and be exposed to it without having to worry about anything else, right?
Sure.
So
So I think you have an interview in 15 minutes. So I will start working through the questions that the community has asked. So yeah, I guess the first thing is that they say from the deposit of Firo into copper custody to the production of the ERC20 token, how
mhm.
long does it take typically? Yeah.
So it's one of these things that create friction and that we want to be kind of reducing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way that it works right now is that when you do the KYC and AML, that process is an actually manual process. So they need to look into the coins that are being transferred. Have those coins been used for money laundering, for example, right,
Mm-hmm.
or financing terrorists, right? And because that's a manual process, it has to happen during work days. There's a few complications there, and eventually it all ends up with a check. When that check happens, then we are now getting a snapshot every day where we're issuing all the tokens for that day, both for the from the completed kind of KYC and AML processes, as well as for the distribution of the rewards.
Hmm. Okay. All right. So, but how long does it take? I mean, like, let's say if a
About
KYC.
less than 24 hours. I mean, well, I mean, the moment that it's completed, right,
Mhm.
that would be less than 24 hours for both of them.
Okay, all right. And then they say when we create an account with Stakeout, how many ETH addresses can we use? I think this is probably a misunderstanding, but I guess it's when you go through the process, they will ask you where should I give you the stake, where should I issue the stake Zcoin to? So
Mhm.
usually you give one F address and they will send
Exactly.
you the stake Zcoin once it's issued. So I think that's you can then move it into how many ETH addresses that you
Mhm.
want,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Then okay, another one is how can we audit the supply of staked Firo tokens versus the number of Firo in custody via Copper with Stakehound? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the wonders of the blockchain, right? There's essentially two data sources that you need to look into. We're going to make a website that like makes it very very easy to see. But right now you can do it by one going to Etherscan to see how many staked Zcoin right now there are on the contract, right? So you just go into the contract. There's an FAQ page on the website specifically for Zcoin. You go there, and there's like audit, like proof of assets, right? And there's essentially two different addresses, which are both copper bolts, right? Every coin works different. In our case, what we have for copper is that we mainly have two different vaults. One for the funds that are being kind of gotten, and then for those that are being staked. And then here's where we create all the different UTXOs and so on and so forth, right? So you just go to, short answer would be, go to the website. There's this FAQ page with for Zcoin, and there you have the proof of assets where you have the both addresses of our Zcoin wallets, as well as the address for the Etherscan contract for staked Zcoin. They have to be the same supply. I mean, normally there will be a little bit more supply on the copper ones, just because we do this every day. But once a day they get settled.
Yep. So basically, once a day you update the balance. Is there a fixed time for that? It's just once a day at the moment.
So security is key here, right? And we're working into how to automate this without losing security. So right now we've got pretty much everything automated, but we are still manually saying, okay, multiple people are checking out, okay, how do we do the checks and balance of one side or the other? We agree, okay, issue these tokens, and distribute these rewards as well. This happens manually, so more or less the same time every day. What's happened so far is that obviously less people have been onboarding the last week since we did the hunt and stuff, right? I think it makes sense when you learn something and you relax a little bit the push there. But essentially from tomorrow, I believe, we're gonna start having rewards pretty much every single day, right?
Cool.
And the thing there as well is that we're going to be able to be kind of setting up a new Z-Note every 2 weeks, which should be quite interesting, and yeah, very keen on that. So
Sure. There's I think there's another one that says, how can we convert our Stakedfiro to Firo? I guess we'll just talk about that. Like, that just goes through the Stakehound process where you will.
It's the same. So it's a different website. Well, actually no, it's the same platform, right? It's the Altconomy platform. So essentially you just go to a website and it would go the same process, like just in reverse.
Right.
So
we are
address.
Yeah. Well, but we are working on ways to kind of, do swaps between Stakedfiro and Firo, and that may not require AML KYC. We're working on that hard, and hopefully we can announce something on that not too long from that. Okay, another question. We're almost there. How's the exchange value of Stakedfiro packed to Firo value?
It's all about the market, right? So what we're always going to do is, if you bring in one Firo, you're going to get back one Stakedfiro. And if you bring in one Stakedfiro, you're going to get back one Firo, right? That doesn't mean that the market will kind of agree with this. Obviously, like it's supply and demand, but it's on the market. Like, the price will for sure shift, right? Then it's all about arbitragers that can think, okay, maybe I can profit from doing this and having done the KYC. And that's actually the main reason, in my opinion, why something like WBTC is so well pegged. Just like a lot of arbitragers that for any demand on the tokens on the open market, on the secondary market, right? They just pick that demand and use it to kind of, issue more WBTC and then, sell them on the market, right? So similar case here as well. And it is a market dynamic that is very much.
I think what was really interesting was when Stake Zcoin launched, people didn't really know that it was actually backed by one Zcoin, and people thought it was a brand new token. And as a result, everyone's like, oh, let's just buy something new. I think the price went up to more than double the actual price of Zcoin, and then it dumped to $1, and then now it's been hovering around the market price. So I think once people realize that the arbitrage opportunity, that this is actually backed by actual Zcoin or Firo, then people okay, let's arbitrage whenever there's a difference. And I think so far it's been keeping within 1% of the actual market price. So I think that's been pretty good. So as you said, it's a pure market doing the arbitrage and making that easy. But I think theoretically, Stakedfiro should be worth slightly more than native Firo, just because there's that inbuilt yield. You said you wanted to say something?
No. I was just thinking like yeah, like it's interesting as well. Like the just this arbitrage is actually very good for the people that are providing liquidity, right? So far, obviously, like we had this great like launch with the price went quite crazy, and
Mhm.
that created about 1% of yield for the people that were providing liquidity at that point.
Hmm.
1% of the liquidity immediately rewarded to those people, right? And then on the other side, like more or less, like when you have so right now, like I've been looking, and it obviously changes every single day, right? So it's very hard to say, but I would say that it's quite feasible to get a 1% to 2% yield APY just by providing liquidity, which is
Right.
very interesting, right? And that's
Cool.
right. Right now, there's not a lot of trading yet, right? People are not kind of understanding this yet and are not used to it, right? But like hopefully people will start to understand what liquid staking is and like how it actually works and what the benefits are. And well, it just takes some time and some education to get there.
Sure. I guess I think there are three more questions. I'll just run them through quickly because I'm mindful of your
Okay,
time.
it's
S-
fine. Mhm.
so one of the things is how is it possible to receive two types of payments, note rewards and yield, without sending 1,000 FIRO to a smart contract from Stakehound? Well, I guess well, I mean, people might not understand what rebasing is, so you might have to go
Okay.
a quick
Okay. Yeah. No.
instruction there. Yeah.
I can go through that. Okay. So the way that this goes is you're essentially trading Zcoin, your Zcoin for stake Zcoin, right? You're essentially like losing ownership of the Zcoin because you're earning ownership of the stake Zcoin. That allows you to actually go into the market and then you can trade it there, right? I mean, obviously, if you had ownership of both, then you would be able to trade the both. Then the first one, like the second one, would make no sense whatsoever, right? What you can do here is because we are taking that Zcoin and we're staking it, right? What we do then is once a day we distribute the rewards to everybody that has stake Zcoin, right? And in order to distribute these rewards, instead of sending 10,000 transactions, 10 million transactions when there's 10 million holders, what we do is we just do one single transaction, which is a rebasing transaction. What we're doing is we're saying, hey, until now there were this many staked FIRO in circulation, and now there has been a reward, and now there's this many more, right? So it's just like we're changing the supply instead of changing how many each user owns, so that you always own the same percentage of the pool
Right.
of that token, but the number is actually calculated differently every day because of how the rewards have been. That
So
allows us to do one transaction.
So let's say if like I'm holding like one FIRO, like if there was a reward in the general pool, not just like my coins specifically, it's like a general pool, it'd be maybe like 1.001, like there's additional one, and that
That would, yeah,
happens once a day, right? Okay,
exactly,
and then yield comes from whatever type of, like, if I'm a lending platform, that's
exactly.
a separate thing from that. And of course you will have the Hound token and some other stuff that I think you're gonna be announcing soon, so I'll wait rather than going into the details of that, which will take quite long, right? Okay, so how can we audit how the stakehound actually make money? I mean, I know you've been like working on that, and I guess maybe just have a general idea, and then once you're ready to like finalize those uh, things, you can
Mhm.
push it out. I mean, after all,
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
think you
no.
have any.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So if you go to the website right now, you can go into the Zcoin row, and you can see that on if you hover on the APY, it's going to show you the formula how we calculate the rewards, right?
Hmm.
So essentially, what we do is we have to like well, first this is obviously auditable because it's on the blockchain, right? So everyone can actually see this, right? But the way we're doing this is here we have to pay for the node costs for the node running, right? We know that we're using all
Or
nodes. We're
not?
very
Yeah.
open with that, right? We need to use the API. That means that it's the advanced plan. That's about $10, right? Then we have to do custody. There's normally about 0.3% per annum, more or less. That's another cost that we've got here. And then what we do is we keep an extra 10% of the reward that is used for paying obviously our operations, compliance, and so on, right?
Mm.
That essentially means that depending on the price of the token, there will be more or less yield, right? Because things, for example, the nodes right now, right?
It's a
So I
fixed
mean, right
cost.
now,
Yeah.
Right. Like we're talking that one Znode gives more or less like say $25, and
Mhm.
about $10 are immediately just going to the node, right? But that's something that everyone has to do, right? Obviously, there's going to be some people that optimize it more or less. The reality here is that there's going to be some ways for people to earn more percentage over there, depending if they provide liquidity or not, right? Essentially, making kind of that we detect that we have two type of users of the system, people, for example, that don't have right now a Znode because they don't have the technical capabilities, or they don't have the time, or they don't have the number of tokens necessary.
Mhm.
And those users are just like profiting from having a token that's, like constantly giving them something, right? While other people that are really, really keen on maximizing their FIRO, all they have to do is just say, okay, if I provide liquidity to the market, then I'm going to be getting the fees plus the rewards plus a bonus that essentially kind of goes from one to the other, right? There's like a percentage that goes from the people that are using the system to the people that are enabling the system. And by this, we will hopefully be able to create much more liquidity for the Stakedfiro, right? Now, yeah, we haven't like as you're saying, like we haven't outlined all the, we haven't kind of published all the plans that we have with precision. But if you go into the website, you already see the formula. You can audit it, obviously, always on the blockchain is very, very easy. But yeah,
Yes.
we're
So
trying to.
basically, Stakehouse portion is 10% of the rewards, and then there's additional fees for custody and the actual Znode hosting, and of course
Exactly.
the KYC stuff, which you can
Yes.
do on the website. Okay, last question. I think we'll just be right on time for your next one.
Amazing.
Uh, what automatic mechanism is in place for converting Stakedfiro back to Firo if Stakehound no longer exists, or stuff like that? And I think that's a good question. So yeah, go
No,
ahead.
no, absolutely, absolutely.
Mm.
So, I mean, there's it's the same process of as, for example, if you had something like an exchange shutdown, right? Like you would have to have an unwinding process where you're telling guys, this has happened. You need to do these operations and do this. It is something that will like really depends on the reason for this. For example, right, we have no plans obviously on closing anything, like
Mm-hmm.
we're just starting. The risk is there obviously, as any other custodial system, right? All we can do is just like do our best to make sure that this is an orderly process if that happened, right?
But the
um,
the customer funds are not part of the company's assets, correct? They are actually held on
so
behalf of the, or how does that
So
work?
as I'm saying, the thing is that if those were the customer funds, which they are not, because if they were the customer funds, then you would be having the customer funds and you would have the token on top of it.
Right. Yeah.
You
Okay.
would have both things, right? You can't
Oh,
have both things,
yes,
because
that's
if you
right.
have both things, you
Mhm.
would be able to sell both things that would
Yes, right.
break the system, right? It's very similar to yeah. So
Right.
essentially,
Bitcoin.
you're trading the Zcoin for stake Zcoin, and then
Hmm.
we'll trade it, from stake Zcoin, like from stake Zcoin to Zcoin, right?
Hmm.
And as I said, like it's very similar with any kind of tokenized position like this. You can't do it anywhere any other way, really, because if you have ownership of both things, then some people would just go and sell both things and like get
Right.
double for nothing. So
It's
it's like,
just a right to redeem, but not like it's not ownership of the like by holding a stake Zcoin. Yes, you can actually redeem a Zcoin from
right.
it, but then or Firo from it, but then it's not ownership of both. You have to choose one or the other. All right.
I mean, yeah, like like from a legal standpoint, as you completely understand. I mean, you're a lawyer
Mhm.
by trade, right?
Yeah.
It's very complicated to structure this
Yeah.
in a way that you don't get into very, very complicated compliant, like regulatory waters, right?
Hmm.
Now we've found a way that is compliant,
Hmm.
totally compliant, and allows us to do this without having to have, for example, like banking licenses and stuff, right? What's actually happening is you're buying the service of staking one FIDO,
Hmm.
right? By paying in with one FIDO. And
Hmm.
you're getting as a kind of as a receipt in a way,
Hmm.
one stake FIDO,
Right. Okay.
right? So that's I mean, yeah, I invited, like you can see like on the onboarding process, I think it's the second step. There are the terms and conditions. Highly invite, like I've actually been looking into, like, yeah, I'm saying like there's a lot of terms and conditions out there. We've tried to do it they're as comprehensive as possible, so that people that have any questions completely understand what's happening, right?
Sure.
We're trying to work with FINMA to make sure that we are as compliant as possible and that they understand as well what we're doing. This is uncharted territory, right? This is we're talking about the service of staking a token, tokenizing that service, right?
Mm,
And then on top of this, allowing people to trade from these tokens back to the token that was used to do this, right? So it is, as I say, uncharted territory. It's not something that there's a lot out
right.
there.
But I mean, the funds are not held by Stakehound themselves, being held by Copper, right? Which is an
Yeah, that's
institutional
correct. That's correct.
custodian.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
you,
like
you can't really
it's
run off with the money per se, can
no,
you? No.
we can't. That's the thing.
Right.
I mean, the reality here is, on the worst case scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
People that have, I mean, there would still be some KYC and AML to go out, right?
Right.
That is a fact, right? Obviously, like people that have Stakedfiro would be choosing, what do I want to do? Do I want to be selling on Uniswap, or do I want to go and kind of trade it back to Firo when the time comes back, right?
Right.
So that will always be an option. Anyone that has already KYC and AML, it's going to be very, very straightforward to move it back. It's yeah. Anyway, but obviously, like, this is just the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
And
hopefully, fingers crossed. All right, I guess that's all the time we have today. We'll do this more because this is a very complex topic, especially like the DeFi space. I guess we'll be also posting stuff on guides on how to use Stakedfiro. I think the first one would be like a Uniswap type of thing, and to show how to use it on the DEX. And we'll be updating everyone. But thank you so much for your time, Albert, and we'll see
thank you,
you
Reuben.
soon. All right, take
Amazing.
care.
Have a good one. See ya. Bye bye.